I'm just so sick of hearing the Ravens, Eagles, Ozzie Newsome,
They don't
Joe
even
Douglas
operate
thing.
like that anymore. That was 2011. They used to do that.
It's like talking about how the Jets operated like when they had like Rex in 2010.
Yes,
It's of a different
stop treating
era.
the fan base like idiots.
We're not
Seriously.
stupid. Like Joe Douglas is not Ozzie Newsome. Just like I shared the Tony Soprano, AJ Soprano like comparison. Like it's
funny.
not who he is. And Joe Douglas has been outbid by the Ravens for multiple free agents. Marcus Williams, Odell Beckham Jr., and the Ravens were on the cusp of a Super Bowl last year. The Eagles, they don't spend, they build it the right way. The Eagles are loaded with talent. They were just in the Super Bowl. They started 10-0 last year. They signed Saquon Barkley. They signed they added Bryce Huff today. Like they are spending aggressively.
They traded for Kevin Byard last.
They traded for they are trying to keep winning. They're not happy losing in the wild card. Like being aggressive, you have to spend. They raise the cap every year. They want you to spend. You can't just draft players and have that be the only way.
That's not the NFL.
It just doesn't. Oh man,
it's like this, Joe. Right? If a path was put in front of you and you had, all these different resources to get to the end of the road, but you were like, no, I'm just going to take 2 out of the 5 resources. Like that's not, it doesn't, there's no logic there. There's no logic there.
Here's one little piece of good news, not for the Jets in terms of signing, but the Dolphins have signed Aaron Brewer. They signed Aaron Brewer, so we don't have to worry about it.
That's a scheme.
Wow.
That's a scheme. You know what's funny with that one? Because I know he's undersized. I know he's been really rough in pass pro. He's a smaller guy. McDaniel will make that one work because he's athletic and he can move in the run game. And it's just funny how things look differently in different places.
Oh, if you would have told me that Brewer signed while we were recording War Room and it wasn't with the Jets, I wouldn't have believed you. But here we are. Anyway, this one's from Andy, who's done an awesome job manning the Discord.
Yes, thank you,
today.
Andy.
Based on what's left on the market, by the time you record this, what's 1 or 2 moves you wish we had made? Also, based on what's left, what are the moves that we need to make? And one extra one, what's a contract you've seen so far that you're happy we didn't pay? So the Runyon one stuck out in particular to me as a deal the Jets absolutely should have did. That was a great signing for great value by the Giants. I think the money was reasonable there.
The same team.
Yeah, the Giants
offensive line value
right there.
Signings.
Bang, bang, right there, right in the same stadium. Those would have been 2 really good, cost-effective moves for the Jets. You want to tell me that Hunt got overpaid like crazy? Yeah, I hear you. I get it. Now, I don't really care, but like I get it. Onwenu like stays with the Pats, like also a big money. I mean, I would have paid for those dudes.
I didn't think that deal was crazy, considering he plays tackle too.
Exactly. So, those are, I mean, the 2 giant ones really jumped off the page as being like, yeah, those would have been like nice, more pragmatic moves. Like Cushenberry, I thought was like a good add. I think they went to the Titans, right, to replace Brewer. So it's frustrating. I mean, in terms of what's left, like everything isn't cleared out, right?
Tyron Smith, the Patriots.
Is that's official now too?
Yeah,
everything's fine. Minshew to the Raiders too. So we always kind of we started to my dreams of Brissett started to filter away sadly, and I think it's like Tannehill, Tyrod, or like Tyler Heineke now, or something like that at backup quarterback. In terms of what's left, I mean Tyron Smith is still out there, right? Zeitler's still out there. Trent Brown, Jonah Williams are still out there, not quite as exciting. There's a couple other guards like more towards the bottom of the market. John Simpson's still out there. He could be a plug and play starter for them.
It's day one and we're already here. What
Dalton Reisner, Donovan Smith. I mean, yeah, this is like these are not the most inspiring names unless they're going to get Tyron Smith or Zeitler. Those are like 2 in the window, not without risk, but like. Okay, like if that was your strategy all along, that like we're just going old and like we're going to get these 2 guys and hope they have 1 or 2 great years left because they can be great players. Okay, and at receiver, like they still have the ability to trade for Deontay Johnson, theoretically the ability to trade for Cortland Sutton. They can still sign Tyler Boyd to be their 3rd receiver. They can still, work down that list and I'm like there's a lot of people did get signed today, but like there are still Curtis Samuel's still out there. Mooney's still out there. Connor Williams is still out there as another offensive lineman. So there's some people still there where they can make meaningful additions to the offense.
Quick, let me ask.
Yeah,
guess the Brissett contract.
2 years, $18 million.
1 year, $8 million.
Oh my God.
And
man.
that's the initial tweet from Rappaport. Always keep in mind the initial tweet is always usually the max deal. Because when they get the text, it's like this is, and then you get into the detail. I'm very surprised. I thought he was going to get back what you said, actually.
Yeah, I mean, for the Jets, like now you got to look like you got to move kind of quick before all these backups go off the board, and like the Jets, like get some goodwill and cut Zach Wilson as soon as the league year opens. Like at least have like a feel for your like give him something. Don't I'm telling you, like literally what happened is like Joe Douglas is sitting in his office looking at his whiteboard, and he's got
Is he?
He's got boy or he's somewhere. He's sitting at home. He's got Boyer
he?
written in all caps and race to 20, and he's like, all right, we're gonna get Isaiah Oliver, Kenny Yeboah. We're gonna bring Clark back, which we're happy about, but it's like, and we're gonna bring back Greg DeLeg, which we're happy about, but it's like all special teams like signings and like it's just hysterical to me that their first moves were like their 4-string tight end who's good at special teams and like a backup 5th cornerback. It's like almost like beyond parody to an extent. All right, next one from Jay Webb. How angry is Woody now that the Giants are making all these moves? Giants also got it's slipping my brain now. Beyond the offensive, they got Brian Burns, which was a huge splash to the defensive side of the ball. Kind of, they got Singletary to replace Saquon. Fine, whatever. I'm sure he notices. I'm sure he notices how much chatter there is from Jet fans for not doing anything at the exact moment that we're recording this. Another one from Jay Hayes that kind of tags onto this, starting to think that maybe Woody told Joe D that if Saleh can't coach this current iteration of the roster, then he will give him another shot at picking a coach. And that now, after all these years, he has the most random patience to do it this way. Little conspiracy theory there.
Okay.
I mean, it's not the craziest thing I ever heard. Douglas may just be like, I might be able to finesse this into like another 3 years with a different coach. Like I've seen McCagnon almost got away with it, right? He was like right there, and then Gase. I mean,
Joe,
the fan base is
today was the day. Think about it. This podcast, who's patted Joe Douglas on the back when he's made really good draft picks and DJ Reed signing, things like that, and has also been an early adopter of his shortcomings and flaws. And I've seen it in your mention specifically about a year ago, where fans would find any way to defend him, and everybody has their opinions. That's fine. Today was the day I call it 95-5. 95-5. The fans were outraged and said he's got to go.
Yeah. You're right. My mentions in particular, because on Twitter, that's where you get the most visceral feedback. It's definitely turned. And today it's like, it's very hard to find the percentage of people who are like twisting themselves in a pretzel to defend Joe Douglas is less and less. So I actually don't, you would have asked me 6 months ago, I think he would have had that cushion. I don't think he has that anymore. I honestly think like, one, I want to see what happens. I do want to give him the benefit of the doubt over the next few months. The offseason is not over 7 hours into the tampering period, although it's frustrating. And this will be the last question here before we wrap and jump over to the pod. From Hudson Jet, how painful is it to watch competent players fly off the board everywhere except the Jets? Can't play in the turf with who the Giants added. Cushenberry gone, Hunt gone, Jonah Jackson gone, Awenu gone. It is frustrating because you know a lot of these players could help the team. And I do wonder sometimes when you see these things happen, you're like, money always talks above everything else, but everyone has a lot of money now with how much cap space, or everyone generally has when they raise the number.
Right.
Beyond that, the Jets may have a tougher pitch than we want to give them credit for. Of course, everyone wants to play with Aaron Rodgers. Most players, I think Aaron Rodgers is awesome and would love a chance to play with him, especially if they're offensive players. But the turf, the stadium, the organization reputation, the New Jersey taxes, the coaching staff. If you're an offensive player, Hackett has a reputation not only for being a bad coach, but being a lazy coach. And there's not a lot of people who want to play for a lazy boss, a guy who's not going to put in the hours, a guy who's not going to help develop you. Keith Carter has a horrific reputation. Horrific. From everything I've seen. Maybe I'm missing something and I'm not being fair, but it's hard for me to remember like a positional coach having like a notably worse reputation than him. So if you're like torn between two spots and Rodgers can't get you over the line, that is something that's like tough to swim up against. And that's on the Jets for not cleaning that up before the offseason started.
Right.
And that's what's frustrating to watch overall. So I don't know. Final thoughts on all of that from our last few questions on the Discord and the last couple moves that just trickled through.
I mean, the reality is, even if the Jets make up some ground by the time you're watching this video or a couple of days into free agency, I'll just say, like, a lot of the players I liked for this team are gone, right? Like, we've talked about this. Yeah, like Jonah Williams is out there. I don't think Jonah Williams is very good. Now, the Jets need all able bodies for the offensive line, so the reaction isn't always, then they do something and you're like, oh, not that, because they just need all the help they can get. To me, it just comes down to this all the time. This franchise under Joe Douglas does not seem prepared often. And it's not just free agency where the excuse is always he draws a hard line in the sand, or, he's not going to move past a certain point. Well, okay. So you didn't know get above that point and you didn't have a fallback plan, right? I mean, think of all the misses over the years that they've had. So that's an issue. They weren't prepared during the trade deadline last year. They weren't prepared out of camp last year to have a backup quarterback when it seemed like Wilson had a pretty hot and cold summer.
Yep. It's not like he was lighting it up in the preseason.
No, they weren't prepared when they got jumped for Broderick Jones last year. They're not prepared. I mean, and it's no coincidence the one really, really good draft he had. Well, you picked twice in the top 10, and yes, you got back into the first round for Jermaine Johnson, and we've given you your flowers for that. And you tried to get back in a lot earlier, and you flipped up for Breece Hall, but that's just a blip on the radar now when you have the sample size of how many drafts, how many free agencies, which counts trade market. They never make a creative. I mean, they signed Chuck Clark back, which I'm happy about, and that's the one creative trade they've made over the last couple of years. And unfortunately, Clark got hurt, and they can't control that. But, I mean, they got to make a trade for a wide receiver here. I always say you really can't trade for offensive linemen. It's just not a quantity that exists on the market. But you can trade for a wide receiver. There are a couple guys left for the offensive line that you could sign. It just feels like the Jets are going into the draft yet again, and everybody knows they need a tackle at 10. Every single person knows they need a tackle at 10. So they're not outsmarting anybody, and they're not prepared. And honestly, you're on a 6-year contract. Paid, GM money to be
paid well.
To be in front and ahead of an organization that's worth a lot of money, and they don't improve at things. And it doesn't even feel like they have anybody now working around him with, a lot of guys.
Skeleton crew.
Yeah, it's just, there's nearly nothing else. Sometimes the answer is very easy to find when you accept harsh realities. And the harsh reality is the Jets under Joe Douglas right now are a poorly run organization. And once you just accept that, which is really hard for a fan to accept about their team, so I understand the reluctance, everything becomes a lot easier to digest. And that's unfortunate.
All right, War Room, before we wrap, a word from our new friends. Thank you for hopping in on our first two best ball drafts. That was fun and a great way to pass the time before noon today. Now we got a couple under our belt. We're going to build up to a bigger one with a bit more time to make picks, and then we're gearing up for some stuff around NFL draft. But it's been fun, out of the gate. And honestly, I've been distracted. I gotta say, I love it. Between the drafts and the higher lowers, which I know are only in certain states right now, but if you're in New York, rip through those. Even if you're just passing through New York for work, I am and I'm sure this will eventually even out, but cleaning up right now. And again, we'll wrap there. We'll be back throughout the week as things happen. So thank you, Discord. Keep the questions coming. Keep the energy coming. Keep the commentary coming. And look out for the podcast on the feed tomorrow a.m. Badlands is very excited to announce that we are Underdog Sports' newest partner. Connor and I are going to be doing weekly best ball drafts for the Discord, for Patreon. We're going to be leading all that up to Best Ball Mania. We're going to be doing pick'ems on NBA and NHL. We could not be more fired up because both of us love the product, and it's a very straightforward way to use it. We're going to link it in the Patreon. We're going to link it in YouTube. You'll see the link plenty. Or just use promo code Badlands when you sign up. They'll match your first deposit up to $100. And for us, we're going to be in this with our rankings, doing some episodes talking about what we're doing. The goal is to help you guys win when you play here, and also get to compete against us and compete against everyone else in the War Room and on the Patreon at all. CR, I know you're already brewing in your head on some different rankings and ways to compete here as we get deeper and deeper into Underdog land.
I think that's the best part, is that when we started the Discord, the whole point is we wanted Badlands to not just be this podcast that people listen to, but an actual interactive community of Jets fans. And since we've built the Discord, we have noticed, I mean, there's, a hockey channel, a New York sports channel, all different kinds of stuff. Obviously, people that love to compete with different games like this. So, I mean, we are going to have a blast with it, whether it is best ball drafts, whether it is messing around with different stat lines for each game. It's just another way for you and I, Joe, and the entire Badlands community to really have more fun together.
That's it. Download the app, sign up today using code Badlands for a deposit up to 100 matched. That's 4 free entries into Best Ball Mania. A lot of winning to be had. Tap in today.